Hi, and welcome back to the Food Comes First series, where together we're discovering how to boost energy, save time, and nourish our families. And today I'd like to welcome Amie Sue Oldfather to the series. Welcome, Amie Sue.
Thank you, Shandy. It's great to be here.
Well, we're going to learn so many wonderful things today. And let me tell you a little bit about Amie Sue before we get going. Her journey to healthy living and eating began in 2007 when she was reading about the benefits of a raw food diet. And so she decided to try it out for herself. So after trying it out, she went on to attend Living Light Culinary Arts Institute and the following year. And so soon it became her heart and her passion, and she wanted to share with others what she was learning, hoping to be an inspiration about the joy of eating fresh, whole foods, and also demonstrating that healthy eating is not a sacrifice, but it can be really fun and delicious. And so Amie Sue went on after that she pursued other professional culinary arts certifications. She became a health and wellness coach. And then she needed somewhere to express all of this passion. So Amie Sue, tell us what happened next.
Well, actually, I started NouveauRaw.com, my website, early on, back around right after I went to Living Light Culinary School. And it was really just a place because I came home from school and I was excited because I had already spent a year in raw, but I didn't own a dehydrator, so I did everything really just out of fresh fruits and vegetables.
Right.
And so as soon as I came back from Living Light, of course it was like, oh my gosh, you have to try these cheesecakes and these raw brownies. And so I used to invite my family over, and a lot of them were skeptical and so forth, but then they ended up really loving them. So everybody was asking me for pictures and for recipes. So I went ahead and started my site, really just for me to keep track of my own recipes and to share them with like my mom and my aunt and so forth.
Right.
So yeah, that's really how the site started, and it just kind of organically grew. I wasn't, I really haven't been one to be out there marketing or really doing anything to promote the site. It was just really just people trickling in over the years. And
well,
it
just kind of happened. And then, what's really cool about it is now it's worldwide. You get, thousands of views every month I encourage the listeners to go to NouveauRaw.com because her photography is amazing, and all of her dishes that she displays, it's gourmet raw food cooking and whole food plant-based, and they're just amazing photographs. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how your journey was in adding in more of these foods into your everyday cooking, and how people can start doing that in their own homes.
Yeah, boy. So when I first started in my journey, I did 100% raw for a full year. Living in Alaska, I started right around winter time, which was kind of crazy because I really shivered through the whole process.
Right.
and I didn't really know all the tricks on how to warm your foods, even keeping them below temperature, or even spices that help to warm your dishes. And so after about a year of it, I realized that my health just wasn't thriving on 100% raw for me. And so I still adapted, and I still do to this day have a very moderate to high raw diet. And I realized that Nouveau Raw is definitely pretty much 100% recipes. And I'm really not there to advocate that you have to eat 100% raw in order to be healthy. It's just really about teaching people how to add in raw foods.
Right.
And fresh whole foods, whether they are cooked or if they're raw. So yeah, and it's just been literally just kind of became a thing where I just encourage people to try one recipe at a time, find something that is kind of a missing gap in their diet. Like if they're starting to eat healthy and feel like they're suffering in the condiment section, There are a lot of wonderful raw condiments that you can make that are, raw vegan. So that's a great way to bring things in. I mean, obviously with raw desserts, they're a really huge hit with just about everybody.
That's right. I was just thinking, if you want to start somewhere, learning how to make a raw brownies, for example, is, they go over well with just everyone loves them. So.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, it's just, there's so much versatility, is that the right word? with raw foods. For instance, like I can make one batter of, maybe I'm going to start out making granola with it. And you can take that same batter, you can mold it into cookies, you can shape it into bars, you can crumble it up on the dehydrator tray and you can make a granola. You can roll it out flat and score it and make tiny little cereals, all out of one recipe. And even though the flavor profile is the same, just having things in different shapes and being able to enjoy them in different ways, kind of just like all of a sudden turns one recipe into 5 different ones. And also the beauty of that is that you can take all of those and freeze them. So, a lot of people think that eating healthy, eating even just raw foods is very time consuming. I will say there is a learning curve, just like there is with any type of cuisine you're going to learn. If you're going to learn how to make Italian food, there's a learning curve to it. And also when you're learning to eat whole foods, everything is really made from scratch. So we're kind of going back in time to our great-grandparents and our grandparents of how they made things. And yeah, it does take a little bit more time, but pretty soon you get yourself in a rhythm, and before you know it, you've got a whole arsenal of recipes that you can lean on.
That's awesome. And, in today's, where we tend to lean towards the convenience foods, things that are easy, quick, and we end up consuming much of our eating out of packaged foods. And what's happening is that we're not getting the nutrients and our health is suffering as a result. And so what you just explained is that you can, really dig in and get through that learning curve, learn how to do some of these new skills. And then before you know it, you're going to be able to take one recipe, turn it into several different things. And that's how versatile whole food and raw food can be, right?
Absolutely. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, I was preparing a bunch of foods for my husband because he had his birthday. And we wanted to have a lot of the raw foods. There was some cooked foods, but we wanted to have a lot of raw. But he is also on an autoimmune diet. So it was like this whole other adventure for me, and learning how to make AIP foods that are raw. And so I was making some cracker batters, and I took that same cracker batter and I scored it into tiny little squares so I could make a cereal out of it. And I mean, it's just, I think in all these years, I've maybe thrown away just a handful of batters, because the one thing I've kind of learned is when I sit down to make a recipe and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to make a great cookie. And I go through all the process and I'm trying to form it, but it won't stick together, or it's just not the texture that I wanted. And I'm like, okay, fine. And I just sprinkle it around the tray and it turns into a granola. So, I mean, it's like when you bake, if you forget an egg or if you forget, one of the main ingredients, you kind of have to trash the whole thing. And with raw, it is so forgiving. And that's kind of one thing I keep trying to get across to people who visit my site. People ask me, oh, can I substitute this nut for that nut? Or can I omit this item and so forth? And that is truly the beauty of it, is you can tailor it exactly to what your liking is, to what ingredients you have available to yourself. So yeah, it's fun. It's actually really fun.
It really is. I enjoy it, just the creativity, and also because it is so fun, and like you said, it's so forgiving, it's really easy to get your family involved, and like you said, get back in the kitchen and, you know, just make it a real family experience, and just substitute things out. Like you said, for what, you know, we need to eat what works for each one of our bodies. And that's what's so great about using whole foods, is that you can just mix and match and come up with some wonderful flavors. So would you tell us a little bit, you and I were talking earlier just about the, you know, stopping the food labels that we tend to put on ourselves and that society, you know, puts on us, and how we can eat more for our bio-individual self. Can you expand about that?
Absolutely. That was probably one lesson that I learned early on after that full year of being raw. What I learned through that time frame was, when I decided to go 100% raw, I did so overnight. I didn't have any mentoring or support. My husband supported me, but he didn't, you know, follow the same suit as I was doing, but he ate whatever I made. And so right off, I told everybody, I'm a 100% raw foodist. And by doing that, and I mean, whether you're paleo, if you're doing an autoimmune diet, whatever the label is, they're great guidelines to have. But I think what happens is, when we attach a food label to us, we kind of set ourselves up for failure. And to better explain that, it's kind of like when I announced that I was going to be 100% raw foodist, I then felt like I had to do this so I didn't, you know, disappoint my family. And I had to prove something to them, because everybody views different ways of dietary eating as a diet, right?
Right.
And so anyway, so everybody watches you because they want to see how you're going to do. So therefore, you feel accountable to these people rather than to your own body. And then also what I found was happening was I wasn't thriving. And I'm not saying that eating 100% raw is wrong, or that a person can't thrive, you know.
Right.
And I probably just didn't have I didn't have any guidance through this process. So I was winging it. And so the other part of it was that, because I kind of was looking at it in terms of this is a diet, it was like, if I messed up, if I ate something that was cooked, I failed. And what do people do when they go on a diet and they eat something that's outside of the parameter? They're like, I failed. Forget it. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Right.
I messed up today. I might as well indulge the rest of the day. And then you just end up in this perpetual, you know.
Right. Tomorrow comes and you just repeat the same thing, which is,
exactly.
You know, that's why they say 98% of all, you know, diets are not successful, because, you know, I think people feel restricted, and they feel like if they don't do it perfectly, then it's not going to work for them. Right. And so I love your approach, is that, you know, we all really need to figure out what foods work well with us, what foods help us feel that thriving, vibrant feeling.
Absolutely.
And so tell us what people can find at nuvoraw.com and what they will learn there.
Yes. Well, I'll interject right there and say, I understand Nouveau Raw can be difficult for people, especially if spelling. It's NOUVEAURAW. And .com. But my husband, being the brilliant man he is, he secured AmieSue.com, which is AMISUE.com. And you can go there and it'll automatically direct you to Nouveau Raw. So we did that just for the ease, because some people were having a hard time pronouncing or finding the site. So that's kind of the way to do it. So yeah, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, just tell us what nuvoraw.com has, you know, what people can find on the website, besides all the beautiful gourmet pictures, you know, that I remember seeing on there.
Yes. So sorry about that. So my site is filled with recipes and techniques. So there's over 1,300 recipes. that ranges anywhere from nut milk to a very complex Greek pasta dish. Over the years, I constantly get requests from people on how to convert a cooked recipe or a not so healthy recipe into raw vegan. So a lot of the recipes on my site are inspired by that.
That's awesome, because I know a lot of people, they like those favorite family dishes, you know, but they still want to have that the flavors, but they want to, you know, put in some more healthier ingredients. So that's a great resource.
Yeah, it is. And through this site, you learn all the simple techniques of how to make almond milk, what to do with the byproduct, the pulp of it, how to soak and sprout nuts and seeds. So I really, even though I'm almost like now 10 years into doing this, I still, with every recipe, I try to sit back and remember what it was like when I was brand new to the whole concept of eating whole foods. And so I try to lay out my recipes and the instructions in very, you know, detailed, but not like overwhelming detailed. But I want people to understand what kind of texture we're aiming for and why. Why are we using this product? And why are we adding this ingredient in? How does it work? Because raw ingredients work very differently than cooked food ingredients. And so I have a lot of that on there. And then actually right now I'm working on a whole new section that's going to have over 100 different posts on it for people who are new, whether they're new to whole foods or to raw vegan. And it's going to be a step-by-step process to help them pick out what type of equipment they need to get started, how to shop in the grocery store, how to read their ingredient labels, where we get our nutrients from. So it's a really, you know, I created this space of Nouveau Raw for a place for me to hang out in. And it's something that I find very relaxing. And so I don't do any pop-ups or ads or banners on the site because I want people just to come in and I want them to feel like they're sitting at my kitchen table and we're talking recipes and we're sharing stories. So
that's exactly the feeling that I got when I went onto your site. So you've done a great job in creating that. And so Amie Sue, what, since we're talking about your site and that it has to do with the generous gift you have for all of our listeners, can you tell us what you are giving them?
Yeah, so you'll be providing a link that everybody just can click on. It'll take you right to Nouveau Raw. And you just fill in a little bit of information and you'll get a free month membership. And so right now when you go to Nouveau Raw, you can view and test out 100 different recipes. And I did that many of them so people could really start to learn who I am as a recipe writer and developer, you know, and just so people can connect with me as a person through my recipes.
Right.
And as a member, then you get full access of everything on the site. And like I said, there's over 1,300 recipes and tips and techniques. So for the viewers today, that's what they'll be getting is a 1 month subscription.
That's awesome. You know, in a month you can, you know, we talked earlier about the learning curve of, you know, just jumping in and you can certainly accomplish that in a month's time by taking advantage of this membership and having access to some wonderful recipes to get you started. Well, Amie Sue, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I'm excited for everyone to really get back in the kitchen and just experiment, have fun, be creative with more and add more whole foods into every meal. And you will just be amazed at the energy that you have and that your family has and the nourishment that you feel when you eat these live foods. So thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you, Shandy. I appreciate it. Quite an honor to be here.
Well, thank you. And we'll see everybody tomorrow. Bye-bye.